McQuern, right? Like Burn Quern. And he's going to talk about when the internet breaks, how to keep critical infrastructure alive at 5% bandwidth. So hopefully it's about keeping critical infrastructure alive at 5% and us alive at 100% or thereabouts, plus or minus.
Even it out, I mean, in the middle.
95%, I don't know. Okay, with that, let me turn it over to Caleb to kick it off. Thank you very much.
Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Okay, great. Looks like I can't walk around with this, so I'm.
Your limit is this thing right here.
Okay. Well, I'll behave. I'll stand right here. Thanks very much, everybody. My name is Caleb Queern. I am my day job is I'm with KPMG, and all my abundant free time. I also am a co-founder of the Texas Cyber Alliance, and it's very nice to be here with you today. Let's see. Next slide. Did that work? Okay, cool. Well, actually, before I get into the fun stuff, let me just say a little bit about why I'm here, what I hope to get out of it, and hope maybe you all get out of this. I, like a lot of us, and listening to our opening speakers there, am pretty worried. I feel like we're not prepared. And one of the ways I feel like we're not prepared is obviously about the network that we all rely on day to day for modern life. I feel that the infrastructure that underpins the whole thing, whether that's data centers, subsea cables, satellites, are all excessively vulnerable. And there's really, I think the point of this talk is that we can expect problems. There's not really a plan. There's many tiny plans, but nothing that inspires confidence to me yet. And that's what today is about. And one of the ways I make this actionable and tangible for people, because I think if you say, oh, the internet's down, people kind of know what that means. But I say, I want to make a plan. What would happen if you had 5% of the bandwidth that you're accustomed to? And by we, I mean government, large enterprise, you name it, up and down the chain. 5% of the bandwidth that we're used to for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 5%, what would happen? Is anybody on the hook in your organization for thinking about a moment like that? And everybody says no. I've spoken with leaders who say, our plan for that moment would be to go on vacation for 2 weeks, because there's just no acceptable or like answer that makes you feel good about the question. But you know, that's why we're here, is to talk about tough topics. So, all right, diving in. This is more or less, I can't not talk about 250 years of our wonderful country. This might be what communications could have looked like back then. Letter writing, printing pamphlets on the printing press there with Sam Adams, you know, activating the population, and maybe horseback. But let's bring it forward into something a little bit more important for our conversation today. Does anybody here in the room know about Autobahn? Yeah, Sunil remembers Autobahn. So what's that? Well, not that old. Autobahn, I'll go quickly in the interest of time. It was the system for communication that the Defense Department used for the worst of worst moments, nuclear war. This is a Cold War system, now deprecated, quite deprecated. And the one big feature about Autobahn, this is in the 60s, was that you could actually up the criticality or the importance of one call over another, so that when generals making decisions or communicating across the command structure needed to, you know, they knew their call would get through in the worst of possible moments. That's Autobahn. Fast forward to something that I think starts to sound familiar to people, ARPANET. This is the predecessor to the internet. It goes back to 1969, and basically it was a way for the defense community, once again, to share information quickly, but not in the way that we know or expect it today. Keeping going, here we are today, where we've got enterprise IT, we've got cloud computing, we have AI, we have social media. Like our entire existence, for many of us in the developed world, is like, it's hard to think of it without these things being available with infinite bandwidth. That's kind of what our developers and engineers and system developers, they build for is unlimited internet. So this is a reference. Shall we play a game? Anybody remember that? Okay, folks got the joke, but let's put those three, we can leave out the Revolutionary War stuff, but Autobahn, ARPANET, and internet. Let's put those in these boxes. And I'll save us some time because Sunil will get mad if I don't. Here's the way I would say it. Highly survivable Autobahn, extremely low bandwidth, low data. It had almost nothing. It had, pretty poor sounding voice, but that thing would be there when you needed it. ARPANET, little data, wasn't meant to survive nuclear blasts, probably. The modern internet is also, I'm bringing us to the point of this talk, not engineered for survivability. We hear about subsea cables a lot. I mean, I say we do. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to assume. Does everybody in this room hear about subsea cables a lot? Is that a thing people talk? Okay, that's good. People debate how scared we should be about this. Some people say, hey, this happens all the time. There's 2,200 cuts per year. And the vast majority are attributed to accidents and fishermen and dragging, that's okay. I get it. But I also think to myself, if this undermines a lot of communications around the planet, and there's really not a confidence-inspiring plan to prevent disruption to these nor restore connectivity if a determined adversary were to attack them. We already talked about this morning in the other session. This is not Volt Typhoon, but this is Salt Typhoon. And it just makes me so uncomfortable when I'm reminded that, when we think about the big telecom providers in the United States, there's probably 3-ish, 4 that come to mind real fast. And to hear that 9 are already riddled with our adversaries is very uncomfortable. Bringing this a little bit forward to Ukraine. This is a photo from 2022. One of the very first things that the Russian military did was to target telecommunications infrastructure. And this was, it's now 2026, hard to believe. But in 2022, the International Telecommunications Union published a study on the impact of the war on Ukraine's telecom. And they found that 20% was damaged or destroyed. And I know, if we think about the infrastructure of the United States, how realistic is that 20% could go offline? I don't know. I don't care. But what I do care about is that it is a priority for our adversaries to target this stuff first. We can assume that. And in our prior session, we heard a lot about CI Fortify from CISA. But I felt perverse pleasure in reading that they're now talking publicly about telecommunications and the internet will be unreliable. Specifically, which I've not seen talked about as much as it needs to be, but it's beginning to gain mainstream consciousness in the communities where we start these conversations. But you say, Caleb, okay, we all get it. We're all very uncomfortable, but I'm not sure. If anybody in the room disagrees with me or has other ideas or feels differently, like we should be less concerned, please let me know. I will feel much. You feel like we're going to be okay, Sunil?
I believe that the infrastructure was designed to be resilient. Your use of the infrastructure may not be.
Okay, hold that thought. Thank you, Sunil. I'm going to come back to that. But play along with me for now, and we can debate. So what are some ways to maybe mitigate a moment like I'm describing? Well, let's make the internet bigger because more bandwidth and more capacity should reduce the likelihood of, or I should say, reduce the impact of any given insult to the network. And on the one hand, you say, well, if in fact we've been aggressively building out the capacity of the global network over time, then maybe we should take some solace in that there's a lot laying around and, it would be hard to put a dent in this. maybe, but folks in the room are definitely familiar with something called the tragedy of the commons. And there's more, academic ways to frame that. But basically, the message is a lot of rational behavior by individuals actually harm the collective. And so let me give you one metaphor. When we build more highways and more lanes in a highway, what it actually perversely does is encourage more use and more traffic. Like, it doesn't reduce commute times. It actually just encourages more people to use that capacity, which is exactly what we see online. This is my opportunity to shake this in front of the camera. This is the 2024 Web Almanac. Very few of these are published in hand, which is also why I need to shake it and show it in public. It's online as a PDF, but it's a semi-regular port of the technology that is the internet. And in the 2024 edition, just like every year, we find that the size of any individual web content by a publisher keeps going up over time. We are not good guardians, not good stewards of the bandwidth that we're given. If we have more space to deliver more a rich experience for users, we're going to consume it all. So this is not something we're good at. Does anybody in the room know how many connections from a browser to your typical website, how many connections take place just establishing the page download? Want to guess? 30. Okay, anybody else? And let's say it is 30. That sounds pretty brittle to me in a moment of disruption, to just be able to get a page to render in a browser, to have 30 back and forths just to make it pop and be available, maybe in a moment of crisis. That doesn't make me feel good. The actual answer is over, dozens of connections just to render a normal page in a browser today. Again, data from the 2024 Web Almanac. I'm going to keep going. Okay, well, maybe we can get really good at building efficient websites that will load easily when there's less bandwidth. Let's look at recent history and see if there's any examples of how good we are at that. I would normally draw this out, make it a little bit more dramatic and fun, but I'll just get to the punch. Let's think back to a crisis in our country, a global crisis, 2020, 2021 of COVID. Every state in the United States published a website for COVID information for their populace. And I got the list. Does anybody in the room know what Google PageSpeed Insights is? Google PageSpeed Insights tells you, it gives a score of the performance of a site. And I'm oversimplifying, but that's okay. You get a score of 0 to 100 of how performant your site is and how fast it renders, how smooth and buttery, like basically efficient it might be. And I'm about to show you the scores of Google PageSpeed Insights for all 50 states in 2021 and the height of COVID, when life or death information can make a difference to people's health outcomes. We're not good at this. In our worst moments, we fail. Some people ask, well, how come those two states are green? And that's probably a different conversation. Out of scope. Let's keep moving. It could be retired rocket scientist in Alabama. Maybe the site was just low bandwidth to begin with, and it just pops in a modern browser. We'll leave that for another day. Keep it moving. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Don't worry about it, everybody. We're going to be fine because we're really good at bringing stuff back online in moments of crisis. And I think you get the game by now. Every time I show a slide like this, I'm about to show you something that makes us feel worse. So I like the idea. I mean, obviously, you need to be able to do this. Folks in the room are familiar with FirstNet. FirstNet's incredible, pretty special, and not everybody enjoys not like a federal level platform or service called FirstNet. Basically, it's for first responders. Number one, that's good and bad. Obviously, those are the priority folks you need to have bandwidth and to be able to communicate. but that doesn't answer the question of society. I still haven't heard a plan for the rest of us. Number two, it's not meant for a determined adversary. FirstNet is, I mean, maybe you could say it's engineered for it, but it doesn't have any practice resisting or returning operations beyond hurricane season, where you have, we'll just, I'll be exaggerating, maybe a few per year in a bad season. But there's nobody on the hook for figuring this out for the broader population when there's a determined adversary punching regularly with a plan and a strategy that does not exist. And when this infrastructure is taken offline, let me go back to Hurricane Helene in 2024, North Carolina. People may remember that, the communications to get life or death information to folks in those moments was, they resorted to things like AM radio at best because everything else was gone. Just November of 2025, more than a year later, the legislature in North Carolina passed funding of $25 million to restore and repair damage done in 2024. Not to make it, to bring it up to modern standards. It was just to bring back to what they had then, which was not much. So you're talking about more than a year delay of infrastructure being available to deliver these modern experiences that we all expect. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to start now, maybe giving us a little bit of hope. Is anybody familiar with this acronym, DDIL? There's variants of this acronym depending on the community you spend time. This is a start. This is used in military circles. DDIL, I think, is the most common one in US armed services. And I think it's rather self-explanatory, but it's a way of thinking about the requirements for an environment where you don't have the network, because you can expect an adversary is trying to deny you communications out on the battlefield. That's wonderful. I have yet to see a list of requirements for what DDIL is or what we're solving for, and maybe that's fine. Maybe that's not meant for public consumption. But what I do expect, and I don't think is okay, is that we don't have some facsimile of this for the public. There's not DDIL for the rest of us. These two websites do make me feel better. I think most in the room are familiar with CNN and NPR, and they actually offer versions. These are live right now that would render with almost no bandwidth. I actually did the math, and I looked in the browser developer tools. You can see how much data is transmitted for both of these sites normally compared to this version, and it's a 99% reduction, 99% or more. And you say, wow, somebody has thought about what good looks like for moments like this. I wonder if there's a standard. Has anybody written down how to go about this? There's no standard. And sure, if you scrape the web, you could probably find another 15 or 20 examples like this, but I don't think that's good enough for the rest of society in moments where it matters. So Neil, how am I doing on time? 3 minutes. Okay, Sunil's cracking down, so we're gonna go fast, everybody. Don't blame me. Okay, so here I go into rocket mode. Who can help? Okay, so we've got a list here. I won't read it. This is probably incomplete, but you've got a lot of stakeholders who may have a way to reduce the impact of a moment like this. We've got everybody from the people who write standards to, mom and dad at home, grandpa and grandma, and our aunts and uncles, users on the bottom. A lot of folks running around. Keep going. In the lower left, you see a little tag that says this one's maybe some guidance for large organizations, which was one of the entities on the list on the prior page. Because I can't find, and I've confirmed with folks who I expect to know, a version of a standard of how to deliver content, much like the NPR and CNN examples before. And I don't think there's any rocket science behind this proto standard. And full disclosure, this is not blessed by anybody. This is a first cut, and hopefully it's helpful to people who start thinking about this now. Anyways, the point is, it's like a cookbook. It's a list of requirements of things to deliver experiences like those text-based sites before. Anybody know what WordPress is? Have we heard of WordPress? A lot of people know WordPress is. Guess what % of the web today is WordPress? Sunil's going to yell at me, so I'll just give you the answer. It's about 37%, and that's confirmed by multiple sources. So I said, what if there's an easy button to deliver that slim experience for a big population fast? So lo and behold, there's a plugin. The link is frustratingly small that I left up at the top. But if you have a WordPress site, you install this plugin, you can toggle over to that experience with a click. And by the way, not for nothing, more than 3,500 .gov websites are running WordPress and might take advantage of a plugin like this. Next up, users, which was the last row on the table for grandpa and grandma and aunts and uncles. There are things already on the platforms we own on our phones that are meant to deliver better experiences when there's almost no bandwidth. So again, we have a cookbook that you can download and put in a Go kit and have it handy, printed out prior to a bad moment like that. And you can just hand to your family and say, here, do this on your phones. Okay, I'm wrapping up, Sunil. He got out of his chair, so I got to go even faster. So let's say where to start. I think because there's so much work to be done, so many actors on the stage who could have a part in this, but we have to ruthlessly prioritize, as we heard earlier today. And I have an idea I'll share. I've got two actually, but the first one I would share is I would like to see some modeling and simulation that might help prepare and inform the rest of us of how it looks to collaborate in a moment like this, because I don't think it's happening today. And I would love, again, to be proven wrong, that there is people getting together from different groups and different organizations that are planning for this. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I don't think it is. And I think that could be a priority and a great first step. Again, 5% of bandwidth, and don't get me started on latency versus capacity and all that. I don't care. You get the idea. 5% of what we're expecting, that's what you don't have for 2 weeks. That's the war game I would like to see people starting. And because I don't have Q&A, I'm going to sneak in one more for Sunil. If I was a large organization, maybe a government, maybe a Fortune 500, I say, give me your top 100, because they often don't even know their full list of applications. There's thousands of applications in these large organizations. I want you to tell me the most important 3, that if these 3 go offline, we're done. It's an existential moment. And then they say, gosh, nobody's written that down. Go write that down. And for those 3, I want you to turn on compression. I want you to turn on all of these configurations that make things more resilient in a moment like this.
Okay, thanks very much. This is great. And you got a flight to catch. Quick question before you head out. Could the slim version meet ADA requirements or be a means to meet ADA requirements?
I've heard this before, the whole ally and ADA angle of delivering experiences that are like in the browser. Is that the tie-in you're looking for?
Yeah, my view is, hey, here's a quick way to get ADA compliant. Just offer this version.
Yes, the answer is yes. Thank you very much.
Cool, thanks very much. I helped engineer Gets, which is why I'm also familiar with FirstNet, which is also why I'm very familiar with the space. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you.
Great to, sorry I had to kick you off so soon.